Now then, welcome back to Dividend Growth UK. I'm David. If you're new to the channel, you might be wondering, where on earth did £365,000 portfolio come from? I just appeared on YouTube one day with a fully formed ISA and SIPP and started reporting monthly dividends. But there's a much longer story behind it. And today, I want to tell that story properly, from the very beginning, because I think it's important that you see the full journey. The slow start, the mistakes, the turning points, and the gradual build got me to where I am today. I've gone back through every single dividend payment I've ever received, going all the way back to September 2016, and the total across nearly a decade is £66,877. That number didn't appear overnight. It was built one payment at a time, 1 year at a time, through a lot of learning and some significant mistakes along the way. Now let's start at the very beginning. You might be thinking that you need thousands in cash to be able to begin this journey, and you're wrong. My first buy, it was £137. You might also be thinking that people like yourself don't buy stocks and shares. Well, let me repeat what I've also mentioned in previous episodes. I grew up on a council estate in Stockton-on-Tees, Teesside. Do you think I knew anything about stocks and shares and wealth building? So let's begin. Now, I've worked for the oil company BP, directly or indirectly, my whole career. And BP ran two employee share schemes that I was part of. The first was a share match scheme. For every share you bought, BP would give you 1.25 shares on top. So if you put in money to buy 4 shares, you'd end up with 9. That's an instant 125% return on the employer match portion before the share price moves at all. And the second was share save. The company would propose a share price for either 2 or 5 years, and at the end of that term, you could opt to purchase the shares at that price or cancel and have your money returned. If the share price had risen by the end of the term, you'd buy at the discounted fixed price and immediately be sitting on a gain. If the share price had fallen below your fixed price, which was the case for every year that I took part in the scheme, you'd simply take your savings back. So you couldn't lose. You either made money or you got your money back. Now, I didn't fully appreciate at the time just how valuable those schemes were, but those BP shares accumulated through the match scheme and the share save were generating quarterly dividends that went straight back into buying more BP shares through the work platform. That's what those early payments you'll see on the chart are. September 2016, my first recorded dividend, £534. That wasn't me being smart, that was BP paying me a dividend on shares I'd accumulated through my employer scheme. And whilst it should have planted a seed, it sadly didn't. Now, in November 2017, I bought my first stock outside of the BP share scheme. Legal & General, 52 shares at £2.64 each. A modest start, just over £137 invested. Why Legal & General? Honestly, I'm not sure. It was a well-known name, a FTSE company, and it paid a dividend. That was about the extent of my analysis. I bought £1,000 of Lloyd's shares, and then on the 29th of May 2018, something clicked. I received my first dividend from Lloyd's. £29.93. It wasn't much, but it was money that arrived in my account that I hadn't worked for. I hadn't sold anything. I hadn't done anything. The business just paid me. And a month later, in June 18, Legal & General paid its first dividend to me, £5.74. That was it. I was hooked, but I still didn't really know what I was doing. I was buying names I recognised, not understanding the fundamentals, not thinking about yield or dividend cover or business quality. And if I'm honest, I was just guessing. But it wasn't until 2019, that was the year when everything changed. I became aware of a guy called Warren Buffett. And I mean, I properly became aware of him. Not just hearing the name, but actually sitting down and reading. So for the first 6 months of 2019, I read everything I could find. And gradually, the way I thought about investing completely shifted. So from August 2019, I was committed. Dividend paying stocks. I added Johnson Matthey and Regional REIT to the portfolio. And now at £7,000 invested, and the income was starting to feel real. Now let me walk you through the annual dividend income, because the trajectory tells the story better than the words. These are figures from all investments combined: early trading account, ISA portfolio, and SIPP. So let's start with 2016. £1,111. Only a part year, but it was mostly BP employer scheme dividends. I barely knew what I was doing. 2017. 2,476. Still predominantly BP, but I bought Legal & General in November, and that was the start of building beyond the employer scheme. 2018, £2,605. Lloyd's joined the portfolio in March. My first external dividend started to flow at £29.93 from Lloyd's in May, £5.74 from Legal & General in June. Small numbers, but progress was beginning. 2019, 3,157. The Buffett year. The turning point. Portfolio was starting to grow for the first time. Johnson Matthey and Regional REIT. Income started to diversify beyond BP. Then we all know what happened in 2020. And it wasn't just £3,348 in dividends for me. It was a challenging year. COVID hit hard and several companies cut or suspended dividends. The fact income only dropped marginally, despite the chaos, showed the diversification was starting to work. Also, for the first time, I saw my portfolio worth less than what I'd paid for it. This was a real test of nerve for myself, but I continued to invest as much as I could. 2021. £4,429. This was also the year that I realised that I'd be breaking the dividends income tax-free amount. As a result, I began to transfer my stocks into my stocks and shares ISA in order to protect myself from unnecessary tax. 2022, £8,645. This is the big jump, more than doubling from the year before. This is when I really started deploying serious capital into the portfolio, and the income started to reflect that. Then we get 2023, first year over 10,000, a genuinely significant milestone, over £833 a month on average. This is also the year that I transferred an old workplace pension into my SIPP. I started to feel comfortable enough that I wanted to control where my pension was invested in. 2024, £11,919, another strong year, and then 2025, last year, the best year yet. Nearly £16,000 in dividend income. So if you look at the monthly data, you can see how the income has evolved from those early years of quarterly BP payments, big lumps every 3 months with nothing in between, to a much more spread and consistent income stream now. Income investing is boring, and that's the point. The most exciting thing about dividend investing is watching the income grow. Stop watching the screen and start watching the income instead. The ISA and SIPP wrappers, extraordinary. Of that £66,877 in total dividends, a significant portion of that received entirely tax-free. Mistakes happen and you survive them. I've had stocks that cut their dividends. I've bought things I later sold at a loss. I've made plenty of errors. None of them derailed the journey because the overall strategy was sound and I've kept going. So here we are, September 2016 to April 2026, just under 10 years, £66,877 in total dividends received. The goal from here? It's simple. Keep deploying the annual ISA allowance. Keep reinvesting dividends. Keep holding quality businesses that generate cash and pay growing dividends. Let time and compound do the rest. This channel exists to document that journey in real time. The good months and the bad months. The holdings I'm confident in and the ones that are keeping me up at night. Yes, green coat wind. I'm looking at you. All of it. Honestly, if you're early in your own journey and the numbers feel small right now, I was there. Honestly, keep going. If you found this useful or it's given you some perspective on your own journey, a like really does help the channel. And drop a comment. I'd love to know where you are in your own dividend journey. So until next time, bye bye now.